Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rebel Mystic podcast. And today I am bringing you a special episode where we have a conversation of how we developed our mediumship and real struggles that we faced along the way. Our hope is that when you listen to this podcast that you hear something that you strongly resonate with or you feel seen or heard and walk away with practical advice to help you overcome your own hurdles. I'm joined with my friends Deanna, Jess, and Ashley in this deep dive conversation, and I really hope you enjoy. The first question that we have here is, what is one thing that completely changed your mediumship that you wish someone told you sooner? And for me personally, I would say that this is like multifaceted. And I want to go back to my most recent reading that I just did earlier this week. Now, I was reading for a girl. This was her first mediumship reading. She never had a psychic or a mediumship reading before. And this is actually also different because she didn't want to connect with a loved one right off the bat. She wanted to connect with her ancestors and guides. I don't typically get that request. So I was like, okay. So I'm reading for her and I'm getting really good information, mostly just validating some things that she was already feeling and messages that she was already receiving, and just wanted more clarity on that. And then it was like a whole hour session. So then I asked her, like, a couple of times if she had any other questions, if there was anybody that she wanted to reach out to. And at the end, she was like, okay, like, yes, there is someone that I'd like to reach out to. Well, not that she would like to reach out to, but she was open for anybody to come in if they had a message. So I was like, okay. So I go ahead and I take a deep breath and I'm like, all right, I felt like I had a male presence come in. I started explaining. I was like, he's showing me something significant about, like, he's wearing like checkered shirts. My heart started to race. I'm like, I feel like he
Mm.
had a heart attack. And I said, I saw a badge. I was like, he's affiliated with law enforcement. And she was like, okay, I'm confused because you're talking about my dad and he's still here.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, okay. And then she wanted to know like why that was. And someone who's new to mediumship, I don't want to freak them out thinking because I bring through a living person that there's going to be something catastrophic happening. And at first it's like, I really couldn't think at the moment because I was so focused on trying to be in the mediumship brain. I was like, well, I was like, it could be a spirit trying to, maybe it's one of a spirit on his side of the family or something like that coming through, and they're trying to identify the relationship. And so like I tapped back in and I got somebody else, but I know before in the very beginning of my mediumship that would have shook me if I would have brought through a living person. I wouldn't have known where to go. And I would have gotten in my head and I would have fumbled the whole entire reading after that. And that was something that I feel like someone would have like taught me sooner, was that it's okay if that happens. You can
Yeah.
just relax, take a deep breath, reconnect. I never thought about reconnecting. I just got in my head.
Mhm.
But it doesn't only happen like, if there's like, if you go psychic when you're supposed to be a mediumship, because I feel like that happens to a lot of us where we drop and we don't know. But if I had a reading where I'm getting a lot of no's, like that can, obviously that gets you in your head and then you have trouble like relaxing and like reconnecting. So I think that's a big one that I wish someone told me, was like, just take a deep breath. It's okay if, you got a ton of no's, or maybe you tuned in psychically instead of mediumistically.
Mhm.
You don't have to know all the answers of why that happened, but just take a deep breath, try to reconnect and bring through someone of spirit, and then start giving that information and try again.
That's so important. I love that.
That's
Thank
That
you.
was
awesome.
a great story.
Thank you. I love my storytelling.
I love it.
That's
Yeah,
always
that
great.
is so important. I think a lot of mediums go through that. They'll connect with a living person and they're like, and then once they find out from their sitter that they're still in the living, it's like that panic sets in. Like, why am I connecting to a living person when I'm trying to connect to their loved ones on the other side? So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, I feel like that would happen to me. Like if I never had a mediumship reading before and I was getting in thinking, okay, well, you're going to connect with like someone on the other side, and they brought through like, my mom, for example, I
Mhm.
probably think like, okay, like what's going to happen to my mom? Oh my gosh, like why is she coming through in the
Yeah.
spirit world? Like, so it definitely could spiral. I think it even having to be grounded in these experiences, definitely helps too. Everybody needs a grounding mat under their feet.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Some salt blocks. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I feel like that happens for a reason. I feel like spirit brings forward
those things because there's a purpose for it, even if that person isn't crossed over. I don't know. I've developed trust in spirit recently. So I feel like whatever comes up in a reading, it's like I just trust it now and I just go
Mm.
with it. Because before I was trying to control how the reading would play out. And I feel now that I've just let it flow and it's whatever's meant to come out is what is meant to come out.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Hmm. Deanna, what would you say would be what completely changed your mediumship that
There's
you wish you knew sooner?
so many things, right? There's so many things I could touch on, but um, a big thing recently is I wish I could go back and tell myself in early development that um me as the medium, like there's so much pressure, right? We feel like we have to have it all figured out. And what I mean by that is, you know, recently I've really taken a step back and asked the spirit world and asked my guides during readings, hey, this isn't all on me. Yes, it's up to me to develop and learn the skills and you know, acquire the knowledge to do this work, but you've got to meet me halfway. Okay,
Hmm.
so if I'm connected to someone in the spirit world and I'm not understanding not that I'm like it's not that I'm trying to um decipher what they're meaning, right? Because it's really just about explaining what you're experiencing from them. But a lot of my clients will hear me say out loud, can you show me that in a different way? Or I'll say, let me sit with this for a moment. I want to make sure I'm understanding them correctly. So I've really, like Ashley said, my trust in the spirit world has grown exponentially. And I don't put that pressure on myself. Like I'm the one who needs to have it all figured out. I need to understand everything that comes through. I really have my role in is more collaborative with the spirit world. But also the client in front of you, the sitter in front of you. Um, you know, it's collaborative. It's not just you talking at them. I think a lot of us are like, I need the evidence, the evidence, the evidence. And for me, I feel like a reading should be balanced. There should be,
Mhm.
of course,
Yep.
evidence proving that you're talking to who you're saying you're talking to, but there needs to be a balance of objective and subjective information. It should feel like their loved one is across from them. So, yes, you want the details, but it shouldn't be like a checklist. Here. It should feel like their loved one is there, right? So whether that's okay, this is who I have, this is what they're showing me, and you have specific details that they can validate, and then mix in experiences and memories that they've had with that person that they understand at an emotional level. It's not just about subjective information like, um, oh, she was loving. It's more so, you know, maybe describe the bond they have that only they can understand. But I think the best readings are the ones where they say, I felt like my loved one was here.
Yeah.
So really releasing that pressure from myself and really trusting has been a big thing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that. That can happen a lot with the pressure that people put on to get like certain pieces of evidence. I feel like it comes off very robotic, like it's not as free
Mhm.
flowing. And you always have to think
Yeah.
like having that where you're just kind of throwing evidence out, like, okay, like identifying the person, yes, but like at the end, like how does that person feel
Yeah.
emotionally? Like, did you make them feel
Mhm.
uplifted? Did you make them feel like their loved one is there with them? Did you make them feel like there's still a connection on the other side, that they're still there? Like, I feel like that's really important. I'm getting chills saying that. I feel like my guides are over here like,
I love
Yes.
it. They're like,
but yeah,
yeah. I
that was
love
an
that.
excellent point though. Yeah, I
Thank
agree.
you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that was beautiful.
Thank you.
And just
Um, so for me, what I feel on my journey makes the biggest difference is just the inner work that we do.
Mhm.
And that's not to say that we have to be these perfect, shiny
people, but there's a lot of things that we all have that kind of hold us back from fully surrendering. And that has been the biggest eye opener for me personally. Um, and just, getting away from the perfectionism
Mm.
because we want so badly to bring that healing to people. And so we can feel that if a reading doesn't go, you know, stellar, spectacular, that we're still, not bringing that healing. But, the people we're reading for, they could be like, wow, that was fantastic. They said exactly what I needed. They brought up that special memory. I could feel that emotion and stuff. But, just bringing it back and, just trusting spirit and knowing that we don't have to be perfect.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I feel like the surrender, that's something I'm working on too. I'm still like, even though it was drilled into my head from the get-go,
Yeah.
I still have trouble doing it and just like allowing the information to come out and like fully, not
Hmm.
that I don't trust it. I do. I don't trust myself, I feel. That's
Mm.
where
Mm.
it gets a
It's
little fuzzy.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mine is really simple, and I shouldn't say simple, it's really quick. Failure is okay.
Yeah.
That's one thing that the last little bit that is like, you know what, you have so much courage to put yourself out there and to be seen, because that takes so much courage, right? And I've really worked on, I used to get really nervous before readings. So
Mm.
I've worked on really calming my nervous system and just being okay with, if, I get a no, not letting it distract me, not letting it, take me off course, and understanding that, sometimes readings don't go your way, and that's okay. You're human. Don't beat yourself up over it. You're doing this work because your heart is in the right place.
Mm.
And I feel like that's what spirit cares most about, is that
Yep.
you're doing this for the right reasons, because you want to spread healing and
Mhm.
love to
Hmm.
the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I get nervous too before my reading still. Even with like I get like an animal with the zoomies. I'm like, I need to run. I need to run. And
Yes.
I do that before readings or even before we go live and stuff. If my anxiety's like creeping in and stuff, like something that I learned from a stage fright coach that you can use this in a lot of things if you're getting anxiety, is to run in place like really fast, like very
Oh, wow.
rapidly. It
Ah,
burns off the nervous energy and then because it releases that like fight or flight response.
Oh,
And then I would like just sit down. You have to do it like about like maybe like 5, 10 minutes before the reading. Because if you do it
mhm.
any like later than that, it's like the anxiety
Yeah.
creeps back in. But yeah,
oh,
Yep.
such a
anxiety
good
tip.
trick.
I dance around like a crazy person. I'm all
Hmm.
shaken and
That's a good thing
It
for
is.
not just releasing those nerves though, but
yeah.
like the sacral chakra,
Hmm.
igniting that up. I used to do that too. I'd dance before I would go
Yeah.
into reading. I thought it worked. I was like, this makes my readings better.
I still do it. Yeah. Like a lot of people think you have to go into it like in a meditative, calm state, but actually,
Yeah.
it's like building up, right? You build the power to connect with spirit.
Hmm.
I don't listen to meditation. Like I'll put Shakira on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need the
Yep.
upbeat stuff.
Exactly. Because it builds that excitement too, just on
Mhm.
the energetic level,
Yeah.
So
I should do that. I should
advice.
do more like dance instead of like
Yeah.
running a full-blown marathon before reading.
I'm sure that feels amazing too, though.
Oh,
Yeah.
it does. Yeah, I love it. It makes me feel really good. And then I mean, I might be a little tired and winded, but it's like I get on the reading like, don't mind me.
Oh, that's so funny. Love that.
But the next question we have here is what is one mistake that you see developing mediums make over and over again? I would say that this actually happened to me, is that you stop learning, you stop seeking like more learning opportunities for mediumship and building that. And it's funny because I remember when I was telling my grandma one time before about like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this another like, mediumship mentorship. And she was like, you already did like three of them. Like, why do you
Mhm.
need another mentorship? Like, you already do really well. And I was like, well, thank you. Like I'm flattered. But it's like every teacher taught me something new. Like
Hmm.
even when I thought, because I did get in that mindset, it's like, okay, well, I know that this is basically how a reading goes. This is the information I'm supposed to be getting. I know how to connect and like have a connection with spirit and bring through information. So I was like, okay, then I'm good. But and I would still, practice and stuff, but it plateaued and I wasn't getting any
Mm.
deeper. Things just kind of felt the same. And then I started doing like more workshops and things like that. And it's like every teacher would teach me something like, I never tried before. I never tried connecting in that way. And it really stretches that muscle.
Hmm.
And I think that that has really helped me go even deeper in my mediumship. For example, um, like what I just learned with my mentorship with Tony, when we're like, like I said, we're supposed to have that like drilled in our head about getting our relationship, our passing. What was the other thing?
Manner of passing. Sorry, you already said that. Name.
Yes, the name. Um, how did that one go? But yeah, so it's like all of these things that we're supposed to get that like some of my readings were falling flat when it came to the
Mm.
memories, when it came to most importantly the message. Why did that spirit come? What do they want to say to their loved one?
Yeah.
And I realized that. And I was just like, okay. So it's like then I had to like start practicing, but it's like I always have to like release what I already learned, and that's
Mm.
harder for me. Um, so yeah, I think that that's a big one.
I think a lot of developing mediums, one, rush their development, but two, the ones who do continue development, like I've continued my development. I'm constantly doing workshops and courses and mentorships, but an important aspect, and it's important to remember with all of the learning that you're doing, you do need to let those integrate. You can't just chase the knowledge without actually implementing it and integrating that information that you've learned, because if if you're just like kind of accumulating knowledge and not actually putting it into practice, or um practicing on different types of people, right? Um, Meaning if you're, I'll say, only practicing on other mediums for a while without actually working with non-mediums, or, I'll say the public, of course, letting them know you are developing. You don't want to mislead anybody, but you'll never understand how to work with the general public if you're only working with other mediums. And sometimes other mediums can be a little too nice and, oh, yeah, yeah. But you want to stretch beyond that a little bit. Integrate the knowledge you've learned, but also work with people who maybe don't have an understanding of mediumship. Maybe you have to get more comfortable explaining what it is you're doing, explaining to them how the reading is going to go, and also learning how to manage the real emotions on the other side, right? People
Hmm.
are in grief. We have to learn how to ethically, you know, of course, do a reading, but if the other person, if your sitter, your client is in grief and they have an emotional reaction, how are you going to respond to that? So it all, like, you tie it all in a nice little bow. It's a lifelong journey, but it's like, pump the brakes, slow down. Your mediumship is not, there's no finish line. It's a lifelong journey. You have your whole life to learn things.
That should be, you just gave me an idea for an exercise. That should be an
Mm.
exercise where someone, like in the practicing mediumship field, like the other medium has to kind of like act like more in grief or like maybe like a lot less grounded and have
Mm.
that person kind of like, okay, like how would I react in a situation like this
Yeah.
where someone like,
Yeah. Or even
yeah.
just a
That's cool.
skeptic, if they're no, no, giving you lots of no's, or maybe they don't know the information that you're giving them, you have to remain neutral. I'll say a lot of developing mediums, there's really no course, like, how do you respond to said client in this situation. I feel like maybe that should be a course somebody makes,
Yeah.
how to work with real life situations and scenarios.
Absolutely. Because that can really shake you. Like that already like shook me before, like where
Hmm.
I had like a reading that went off and like I was getting a bunch of no's
Yeah.
and like that caused me to feel very disconnected with spirit and
Mhm.
like, I got in my head and all that. So I think that's really important for people, absolutely, to get comfortable.
It's going to
Yeah.
happen. It will
Mhm.
Yeah,
happen.
it will happen.
It will.
Yeah.
There's no avoiding it. You
100%.
have to go through it.
The name of the game.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's really not that bad though after you. I mean, like if you can kind of take it with a grain of salt and say like, okay, I'm just practicing,
Hmm.
Mhm.
it's like a lot easier because I get it. Like we're hard on ourselves sometimes. We want
Hmm.
to do good.
Mhm.
So yeah, definitely taking that breather and say, it's okay. Let's just
Absolutely.
be
Yeah.
neutral.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that kind of leads into my answer was not letting the nose shake you up.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like, usually, for the most part, I mean, there is, you know, we're not always 100% accurate, but sometimes it's just we're interpreting energy.
Hmm.
Like, crazy as that. So, we can like pick up on things a little off. We
Yeah.
can misinterpret. So, not letting that shake you. And also, sometimes, and even for myself getting readings, like we forget things about, our spirit people.
Mhm.
So, just not letting those no's shake you up and just giving yourself grace and just, moving on. Like, it's okay. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always say, like, every time I get a no, I'm like, okay, like, it's okay, it's okay. Like, let me just
Hmm.
kind of sit with that for a minute. Because it's my human brain that interprets it wrong. I
Yeah.
always want to
Mm.
place meaning to it.
Yeah.
So it's
Hmm.
like, because I don't know how it makes sense to them. So I try to make it make sense. But then it's not
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me to do that. It's not my job to do that. It's does the sitter understand it? And I think that's the biggest thing.
Mm.
And I feel like that was a big lesson that I learned throughout my mediumship was just say what you receive.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Don't. And if
Yeah.
they don't understand it, try going back and asking spirit to either show you in another way.
Yeah.
Or, because one thing that I learned in a workshop in Arthur Findlay College, was that like if you say something and the sitter doesn't understand it, like say if I'm describing like say like, oh yeah, I have your dad here. He's a
Mm.
very stubborn man. And they're like, well, my dad wasn't stubborn because maybe their definition of stubborn is not your definition of stubborn. So then
Yeah.
Hmm.
explaining that of like, okay, well, I feel like this person was, very stuck in their own way. Like they wanted things
Yeah.
done a certain way and explaining it in that way. And then the person
Mm.
might understand it.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. Hmm.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Thank you. How about you, Ashley?
I agree with everything that you girls said. One of the things I see because I do teach private intuitive development is I feel like people give up too quick
Mm.
and
Hmm.
they don't stay out the course. And I really do believe that if you're going to follow this path, consistency will pay off because it's not like
Yeah.
overnight all of a sudden everything is just going to be super clear and you're going to be bringing in these messages. I mean, I guess that can happen, but I feel like consistency over time, just like anything else,
Mhm.
is going to pay off. You put the effort, the dedication, the consistency into this, and what's the word I want to say here? I would say you don't have to devote your life to it, but I feel like if you make that promise to yourself in spirit, I feel like spirit always has your back. And if you put in the time, the effort, the dedication, it will pay off. So I feel like people give up too early because they feel like they get things wrong, which is completely normal,
Yeah.
right? Because you have to learn how spirit works with you, and spirit works with people differently. And also, to developing your frame of reference, I feel is really big, right? Because, like you just said, Isabel, like something might mean something to me, but it can mean something to someone
Mm.
else, right? And then going back to the spirit team and saying, hey, can you explain this or tell me what this means in this context? So I feel like it takes time to develop those skills, see how spirit works with you, build
Yeah.
up your database, right? And I feel like over time, you're going to get better and better and better. So it's like stick with it, don't give up.
I think the biggest thing, I like what you said there. I feel like a lot of people get themselves in the comparison trap of thinking,
That too.
okay, like
Yeah.
like I'm not doing as great as, some other medium is and stuff. And I'm like, I'll be honest, like it took me like years to get to where I'm at, with
Yeah.
Mhm.
years of practice and
Yeah.
consistency. Like this
Yep.
was not an overnight practice. It's not an overnight practice for anybody. John Edwards did not wake up and become
Mhm.
as great as he was. Tyler Henry didn't just wake up and be like, okay, like I'm this, world-renowned medium. Like it did not happen overnight. Like they had practiced this. And I think Tyler Henry is one that still does, talks about how he practices still.
Mhm.
And I think that that's a big thing. And that's something that I feel like a lot of people need to hear too, is that, just keep practicing. Like you
Hmm.
will get better, you will see improvement. I've seen significant improvement with the practices that I've been doing with my mediumship breakdown series and everything. Like kind of consistently doing that practice, but kind of reviewing it and reflecting on it, of seeing how I can improve on things, or what am I doing really well on? What should I focus on next? And I think that also helps build
Mm.
your mediumship
Yeah,
too. But yeah, that was a
absolutely.
great point.
Yeah. I love that you brought up the comparison. I
Mhm.
think it's natural for people to get into a comparison with anything, not just mediumship, but um, you know, as long as you come back to yourself and you're like, listen, this is my journey. You can't compare your like first month to someone who's been doing it for 5+ years. Um,
Mhm.
just take every experience you have, every encounter you have with someone in the spirit world is a learning experience.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I agree. The third question that we have here is, have you ever gone through a season where you felt disconnected from spirit? I say this happens to me actually quite more often than I like lead on. Like I don't really talk about this that much, but like there are like several times I feel like through the year where I kind of drop off. Um, like July was one where I don't want to say I was feeling disconnected. I actually really had an urge to get back into my,
Mm.
the business and everything. But like there was this disconnection, and then I noticed, like, like I said in my previous podcast episode, there's a lot of nervous system regulation
Mm.
in
Mhm.
spiritual work.
Absolutely.
So I noticed after I stopped doing my, like, all my spiritual work and stuff for like this month, my anxiety is like a lot higher than what it was, because it's like, I'm not doing like breath work or meditations or things that just naturally, like, calm down the nervous system. But usually after if a reading went bad, or if I have like an ounce of doubt,
Mm.
that can make me feel disconnected with spirit, because I'm just like, "Ugh, well, maybe this is in my head. Like maybe that was just a really good guess, like, and then you go through that like negativity. But one thing that I found that really works for me, and I think that this is something, like I've been doing this probably in the very beginning of my journey, where I kind of just journal my spiritual experiences, not just my mediumship, but like even throughout my life, if I had like a synchronicity that happened that was really cool, or, I journal about those experiences. So if I have that moment where I'm feeling doubtful or disconnected, I can like flip through this journal. There's a ton of things in here. I've been writing it for a while, and there's a ton of things in there that I completely forgot about, that I'm like, oh yeah, like I remember when I got that, like that was really cool. Or I remember when I received that, like, message or that synchronicity, and how it really resonated with me. And like it's a good way to kind of get back in to the spiritual realm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like we forget a lot um of how we are very connected, and having
Yeah.
a reminder really does help.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I love that you journal your experiences to like refer back to.
Mhm.
That's something I need to I'll improve a little bit on, the journaling aspect. Um, I think we all have seasons or periods where we feel disconnected. Usually when real life stuff is going on, right? I will say, you know, going through grief, there was a like solid year, I'll even say longer than that, but where I felt very disconnected from spirit. And I think, right, some experiences can lead to like a lot of pain, a lot of grief, and it's almost like you sometimes question things. Um, sometimes it can bring up like beef with your higher power, I'll say. Where you're
Yeah.
like, what is happening? Why am I experiencing these things? But I do feel like we do go through periods where we're not disconnected, but we feel disconnected because it's asking us to address the things right in front of us first before we're focused on the outside stuff. So, right, we have to make sure we're okay in our body, right? Our body is safe, our basic needs are met. Um, I'll say any transformation, like internal transformation that needs to happen, can lead to feeling disconnected. Just because, right, I think people do try to rely on their guides or their higher power of, show me this, I need guidance, I need clarity, and they're always asking outside of themselves. But a lot of those, I'll say, periods of transformation will really have you turn inward and you really start to rely on your own inner guidance and trust yourself. And then, of course, when the storm clears, you come back to it. I do want to say, like, spirit will always be there for you. They're always, they'll be there waiting for you when you're ready to hop back in. Um, I stepped back from my mediumship for a while to handle my own affairs, mental health things. And when I was ready and willing and able, spirit was right there with open arms. It's not like your mediumship is going to go away because you decided to handle some real life stuff. So I wish people would be a little more gentle with themselves, like, oh no, if I stop practicing, it won't be there anymore. And that's the furthest thing from the truth, right?
Yep.
Exactly. I would say in my experience, when I've done that and I've taken like long breaks from mediumship, like the one time I remember I talk about this often where I take like a year off.
Mm,
And that year off, it was very beneficial because it reminded me of how important mediumship is to me. But getting into it, I will admit, getting back in after a long break, you are rusty. You don't forget.
yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
relearning it, but you're just like, ooh, okay, like I need a I need to do a couple more of these.
Yes.
So yes, like getting back into it and easing back into it and being gentle with yourself when you ease back into it, knowing that like, things might not be
Yeah.
like, perfect. And that's okay. Like you can always get back to like the level that you were at and get more
Mhm.
confident and everything. I think that's a really important.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. That was a
That
good
was
point.
awesome. And I honestly feel like I'm in this like weird space right now where I'm kind of like in this in between, and it's not that I feel disconnected from spirit. I'm in this space where I feel something's building and
Mm,
something's changing, and I'm not quite sure what it is yet, but it's uncomfortable. And but it's so weird because I have full faith also that
yeah.
this weird, uncomfortable like spot I'm in right now, something really good is going to come out of this. But it's so strange.
I've actually been feeling the same way, so I'm glad you brought that up because
Yeah, it's weird.
yeah, it's very like I don't know, in and out kind of feeling.
Uh-huh. It's like this strange transition. It's like I don't even know how to articulate this feeling, honestly.
Yeah.
I
As
can
time goes on, right?
say, yeah, I can say I felt like that before too, where it was like that
Mm,
in between. And you know what? It actually came out. It was positive,
Yeah.
but I ended up entering into like new modalities and
Mm.
stuff.
Mm,
So it's like you're kind of craving like something new and you might
yeah,
not know what it is. And like,
that makes
when it does, it feels more fulfilled. And like,
sense.
yeah, that's what happened to me. Well, I mean, I can't say from your experience, it might be completely different. But I think that, yeah, that was a good one.
That would make sense. That would make sense because it's been kind of like a quiet period where I feel like I'm going more internal. And I think that's a lot of what we need too is, it's good to go outwards and seek with all these different other people also, but I think getting back to yourself is huge.
It is. Yeah. Hmm.
I wrote down a couple things here. If
I
I've
love
ever,
Kitty.
I know, she's over there, and then she's jumping on the bed, and then she's like right front and center because she loves you guys, loves
Oh,
mediumship,
we love
loves the
having her here.
energy. Thank you. I know. She's my little guardian, my little familiar. But I mean, I feel like we're always connected. I truly believe there can be no other way. But I have felt disconnected very much so when a reading has gone horribly wrong, and that has happened to me. I've had readings go where I've gotten every single thing correct, and I've had a reading completely bomb where I haven't got one thing correct. And that can really take you out of your power. But just to go back to, and I can't remember, I'm sorry who said this, but sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is be 3D, is to just have the human experience, right? Because that's why we come here. And I feel like I went through this phase where I was like fighting being spiritual, and then I like embodied, like, I was super spiritual, and then like, and that's still out of balance too. And now I've kind of accepted that like there really needs to be a balance there of like being spiritual but being also human. And it's okay to take rest, it's okay to take a break. You don't have to be like pedal to the metal. And that's part of, I think, like my Capricornness is, I'm really like, I'm just a workaholic, and I love this stuff so much, but also realizing that, you know what, you came here for a human experience. It's okay to take rest. It's okay to go to the cottage. It's okay to like go to the pool party. It's okay to have a drink. It's okay to have fun, right? You don't need to be like, super spiritual all the time, 24/7. There needs to be a balance there. So I feel like I have felt disconnected, but I always know that I'm always connected and there can be no other way. But I can see how people would feel like they are disconnected because we have those human moments where we think like, oh my God, that reading sucked. I'm terrible. And you beat yourself up, right? But you're never disconnected from spirit ever.
I
Mhm.
love that you said that. I do sometimes call myself like the most unspiritual spiritual person.
Right.
Because yeah, I talk to people on the other side and animals and this and that, but and like my muggle life, I'm a
Mm.
mom, I'm raising chickens. I'm doing
Are
all of like
you?
I am
Didn't know that.
growing
That's awesome.
cucumbers, I'm doing like the most 3D things and I don't really, live my life how you, I guess, would expect somebody who does all that to
Mm-hmm.
do.
Yep.
Love it.
Yep.
I love that. I'm a chicken person too. So if you
Oh, I
need help
love
with
them.
chickens,
They are so grounding and calming. I love them, and they all have names. I love them.
mine look very similar. So I'm like, one likes me a lot and wants me to pet her. So that one's my
Oh,
friend, but a lot of them like kind of like they'll come up to you, but they're like,
yeah.
don't touch me. Pet me with your
Yes.
eyes.
Yes. And then I found out they make this noise that they're expressing frustration. And usually they're like trying to go in my driveway. I'm like, no, back in the grass. And they'll make the noise at me. And I'm like, well, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to save you.
So sassy.
I have one that's
They
very
are.
sassy, but they're so sweet.
I
I'll
love
send you
chicken.
guys pictures.
Yes,
Oh
yes,
yeah.
Yes,
please
too.
do. All right. The next question that we have here is there something you used to believe about mediumship that
Mm.
that completely changed your mind about mediumship? This kind of goes back to what I just said previously, when I was talking about my mentorship with Tony and how he had us like we weren't allowed to get the name, the relationship, the passing, and we had to focus on the other things. And I think that that was huge, because it's like from the very beginning, we are always taught. I found out this is a very like spiritualist church type of like way of doing things where you're very heavy
Yeah.
on the evidence of
Mm.
those things, then it falls flat with, like I said, like memories and other like non-subjective like information, and then the messages and stuff. And I mean, that's still a struggle. Like I'm still working on that. But I think it's good. What I'm learning about like how this, I feel like this changes mediumship altogether. And kind of going back to what you said, Ashley, there needs to be balance with everything. So it's like I would probably, and this is my own philosophy, I would probably stray away from like the rigid structure of like the spiritualist church of saying you need to get the passing, you
Mhm.
need to have the name. The
Yeah.
relationship is the most important thing. And guess what? I still struggle with the relationship. With the other reading that I was telling you about that I just had this week, when I did connect after I like psychically connected with her dad, I connected with spirit and I
Mm.
explained it and I could not put my finger on the relationship. Now I would say it's kind of in the ballpark, but I was like, okay, like I feel like this is like it's definitely maternal, but I wanted to go deeper than maternal. I said it feels sisterly or aunt-like, and it turns out that it was her sister's godmom that was coming
Oh,
through.
yeah.
I never connected with like, a god that wasn't in my reference bank. So, I still struggle, but that can completely fumble. Like if you're like focused and you get the relationship wrong, especially if someone's like a little bit skeptical, like say you get all this great evidence and stuff, but it's their dad, but you say it's their uncle, and they're like,
Mm.
well, it's not my uncle. So it's like, kind of getting over that. That's something that I'm definitely like learning is to just give everything like equal amount of attention when you're building your
Mm.
mediumship. I think that's really
Yeah.
important.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I think for me, like pre-mediumship, I just assumed mediums were walking around seeing, like physically with their eyes, um, disincarnate people walking around, and I didn't have that experience. I didn't have any like physical experiences, nobody hanging over my bed, that kind of thing. So when I first started development, I think it kind of threw me for a loop how subtle the spirit world actually is. And it clicked for me like, I've been kind of doing this the whole time. What do you mean? So I think I had like this perception or expectation of what mediumship actually was. And I also never had any, I'll say, loud experiences, meaning um if I'm out in public, yes, I feel more people. Like I'm tuned into people in general, but if I'm out in public, I'm not being overwhelmed by spirit, to deliver a message. For me, it has to be very intentional. Like, okay, I'm sitting down for someone, I'm going to connect to their loved ones. And then, like, I let them into my waiting room or I flick the switch in my mind. It's very intentional for me. So, and I've never heard anyone explain it that way. I always just assumed like, oh, well, spirit's just around them all the time. They're just always open all the time. And it wasn't like that for me. So it kind of threw me off. And for a while, very much questioned, like, I don't think I'm a medium. I don't know. Maybe I'm losing my marbles. I don't know. So that was my experience, but now that I'm in it, of course, I'm like, there's a whole spectrum, right? There's a whole spectrum to mediumship. Um, and I think we should all honor it how it comes to us because it's so
Mhm.
unique to the individual.
It is. Hmm.
Absolutely.
Think of how, if I don't know how many people would actually strive to be a medium if it involves seeing disincarnate spirits. That
Yeah.
would be terrifying.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
I know
just
some
the
people do.
story I've always heard, that's just
Yeah.
like the story that I've always heard people share of
Mhm.
I saw my grandma when I was young and I'm like that never happened for me, so maybe I'm making this up. But I learned otherwise and I'm like, okay. We're all I'll say different shades of mediums.
Yep.
Mhm.
I can like just imagine like someone like, maybe doesn't have like all the knowledge of like mediumship and how things work, but
Yeah.
seeing like a disincarnate spirit, like you're just in your house, like doing your own thing, and like the previous owner is like sitting in a chair and you're like, excuse me, sir, but how did you get in here?
Yes.
As they like subtly like fade away, don't say anything. It's like, what just happened?
And then you're like
Mhm.
thinking you're in this very weird dream.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
I love that. Jen,
Oh my
how about
gosh,
you?
that's so funny. So I think there's usually this narrative that you have to do all these steps to set up to prepare going into a reading. And I think if you feel that you need to do that, right on. Go ahead and do it. Like, I fully support whatever makes you feel comfortable to get into that headspace, do it. But we are completely capable of just like shifting our awareness, like in the
Mhm.
moment.
Yep.
Like, we don't need to do all these steps. We don't have to. But if you want to, go for it.
Yeah.
I feel completely called out right now because I have an elaborate
I do
before
too.
I get ready for you're just
But
saying
it's
that
true.
I'm like, that's me. But but I have done it where like, I don't have any prep and like I just go straight into the
Hmm.
reading and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And like, yeah, I'm a little bit nervous because I didn't do my Kundalini yoga practice. I didn't jog like 5 miles before I hopped on. Like but it's fine. And I still
Yeah.
have a connection. It's like,
Mhm.
it's all it really is, I feel like, is just settling your mind, taking that deep breath, and just
Yep.
you can do the process like during
Mhm.
the reading of like, expanding the
Mhm.
energy, bringing spirit in, and just start going with the information and sharing what you receive. And it's like I know that deep down,
Mm.
and then I'm like, Kundalini yoga, let's go for a jog. Now I need to
Yeah.
sit in power for 20 minutes. Okay, we're good. Like
But that
the
makes
whole
you feel
thing.
more comfortable. And I
It
don't think that's
does,
a
yeah.
bad thing. But we
Yeah.
are capable of just like, just shift.
It's
Mhm.
it's true. It's not a bad thing, I would say, but mine also doesn't need to be an hour long and recognizing that.
No, I can be guilty of that too. I
Mhm.
think one of the two things here that I want to just mention is this is your natural state. You are an energetic being first and foremost. So this is completely natural to you. And I think that's something that I realized the last little bit is that this isn't foreign, it isn't weird, it isn't this is who you are naturally. So tapping into that natural state of being and knowing that there can be no other way that you always are connected. And I feel like for me, one of the things that held me back, I think too, because religious trauma and growing up, people told me to not talk about these things, that mediumship is not scary. I've never brought through anyone that was harmful, if I can say it that way. Every single person that I've ever brought through in any reading always comes. And I mean, I do set intentions. I don't connect to anything that isn't of the highest vibrational frequency, but I've never channeled anything that was considered low vibrational. I've never heard anything in a mediumship session that ever was negative or harmful. It's always love, healing. And I set that intention too. What can I bring forward that they need to hear today for their highest and their greatest good? And I feel like mediumship is it's one of I wanted to say the ultimate healing modality because I feel and I see how it's changed my life and I've seen how it's changed other people's lives. So I feel like fear holds a lot of people back from developing because it's fear of the unknown, but you really have nothing to fear because mediumship is about love, it's about healing, it's about, transmutation of the highest vibration. So I feel like it's such a beautiful, transformative journey. You have really nothing to fear, and it will completely transform you inside and out, even if you don't do this professionally.
Yeah,
That's
I
so
Yeah.
agree.
true.
Mhm. And that's a big like misconception. I feel like that's kind of from mainstream media, like you'll end up
Mhm.
connecting with like a demon or like something. I never had that experience. Now I'll say that I've had heavier energy, but that's usually someone who had a really
Mhm.
rough life.
Mhm.
Someone who has taken their own life versus someone who passed naturally, that feels different in energy.
Mhm.
Um, but it's never anything like ill intent, that I ever received and stuff. I think that's a big thing that people, uh, should know, especially in the beginning of mediumship, to not have that fear. And I always say, like, my protection is like just being in a high vibration
Hmm.
because I feel like attracts like. And so one
Mhm.
thing that I do before my readings and stuff is like I think about my kids because I love my kids. So it's like I think about the things that I love. I think
Mhm.
about what I'm grateful for that day. And that's also like a part of my process for me to attract like,
Yep.
a very high vibrational person, or whoever, wants to come through. But definitely like, higher vibration, someone who has a good message, respectful, because I feel like the people, like, if you're fearful when you connect, then you're most
Mm.
likely going to connect with something. You're going to get in your head about it.
Yeah.
And like, at that point, you might be thinking like your intrusive thoughts or spirit,
Hmm.
and it's not that. So I think that's definitely a big point. Absolutely. Next question we have is someone had only 15 minutes a day to work on their mediumship. What would you
Mm.
tell them to do? Personally, I would say break up those 15 minutes. Like each day do something different. Like each day doesn't have to do like be meditation every day. You could do one day meditation, one day clear development, one day maybe you ask a friend or a family or reach out to a Facebook group for someone to do like a maybe send you a picture of one of their loved ones that passed away and do a quick reading and
Hmm.
then just send it and see if they can validate anything. And I feel like doing that, it'll eventually compound. Like that meditation, that practice, that clear development will compound and you'll see development throughout
Hmm.
that. So I think that's good. I want to see if I wrote something down here in my notes. I thought I wanted to see something else. Yes, I did. Um, so this is not necessarily mediumship, but like during work hours and stuff like that, sometimes I tune into my patients psychically to see like what they actually need. How can I best support them right now? Like, what are they not telling me? Like, how can I read between the lines and like actually support this person? I think that that's actually very helpful in my job, even though I'll complain about it and I say it's really stressful. But like I had one of my patients, I just called her for a follow-up earlier this week. And she gave me, it felt so good. She gave me so much praise. And she just said, like, Isabel, like, you've helped me so much. She's like, you did so much more for me in 1 month than like I feel like I've had like in years. And that made me feel, I wanted to cry. And she started to cry on the
Uh-huh.
phone. And then I was like, I was getting emotional. And I was like, oh, but like, it really feels good. And I felt like part of it is like, I'm not just doing my job. I'm not just advocating for her, but I'm actually like really trying to get to the root of the problem. Like,
Yeah.
even if she's not telling me, I'm not really prying for it, but I can feel into like, how can I best support and like, make this person feel good. So I feel like if you want to practice and like you don't have that much time, you can incorporate it in your everyday life too,
Yep.
just throughout the
Mhm.
day.
Yeah. Oh,
Hmm.
Mhm.
those are good tips and tricks. I love that you
Yeah.
brought that up because I used to unknowingly tune into people's needs when I worked in the dental office. So many people come into a dental office, they're terrified, but just unintentionally like tuning into somebody. And what I mean by unintentionally is like I don't mean to like pry into their energy, but just like knowing, getting gut feelings like, oh, I think they need something for their neck. I feel like their neck's hurting them, or just, they look tense. So you talk to them, you sit with them. Maybe they need a little extra TLC. Maybe they need you to hold their hand. So that kind of thing. So I really love that you brought that up because I think there's so many people out there who are intuitive. You don't have to be a medium professionally. You can use your
Mhm.
intuitive gifts in your current field. And I think
Absolutely.
that's kind of where we're headed as a society. But um, if I were to tell somebody, if you had 15 minutes a day, build your reference bank. And what I mean by that
Mm.
is, maybe one day you focus on names. Everyone you come in contact with that day, remember their name. Right? Because real life will translate to your mediumship, or maybe it's geography. Maybe you take out a map and you study like locate, countries and places you haven't been before. Just study the map for 15 minutes because then spirit will start working with you and show you locations. It could even be occupations, Let's say you just take note of people, right? You could even be sitting on a park bench, looking around you and sitting in stillness and just taking note of people, their appearance. Like, oh, this one, she's dressed really nice. She has her hair done up. This one, he dresses more casual. He has a certain way about him. That is going to translate into your mediumship.
Hmm.
Spirit will use your everyday um,
Mhm.
references, to get a message
Mhm.
across. So I would say start using your real life as your encyclopedia or your dictionary or thesaurus.
That's a good one.
Mhm.
That's great. I have a couple things I would do.
Oh.
So I think taking just a few minutes a day for yourself.
Mm.
So you're feeling just your own energy because, we're so busy in our daily lives, we're kind of bombarded with everybody else's energy. So just kind of sitting with yourself for a few minutes a day. And then also, like, kind of working on that psychic link that you can do with living people, because the only difference between mediumship and
Mm.
psychic is a living person. You're reading a living person's energy, and mediumship is a person who has passed. So I think, kind of noticing like the people you're interacting with, like, how does this person make me feel? What am I feeling right now from them? That's actually going to help you a lot in your mediumship.
Mhm. Absolutely. I want to add to that when you were talking about like sitting with yourself and feeling
Mhm.
into your own energy. I think that that is super important because you need to know
Yeah.
what your own energy feels like so you can know when like a foreign energy would like enter in.
Mhm.
Also what you said about like, being around other people and like kind of like feeling how their energy feels, another huge thing because like you said, like in mediumship, if you get a spirit that has a familiar feeling that you already felt, you'd be like, okay, like maybe you were around like your sister and like maybe she was having like a bad day and she was like, feeling really like, anxious or, whatever the feeling was, you'd be familiar with that sensation. So like
Yeah.
if spirit has something like that and you're like, oh, like they were, I felt like they had like anxious energy or something like that. They were like a really anxious
Mhm.
person. Like you'd be able to explain that. And I think that's really good is
Yeah.
like building that up. Hmm.
I love it because I feel like we all met for a reason.
Yeah.
We're all like at the very, same spot in our development. We've grown together because I feel like if people go back and watch that first podcast with all of us, and I feel like this is like the next we've ascended to like the next level because a lot of the stuff that's come up that you girls have mentioned, it's stuff that I've written down. So my point here, because I was going to say sitting with yourself, I feel like
Yeah.
that's super important is knowing yourself first and foremost. But one of the biggest things I see is people not clearing their field.
Mhm.
And the reason why I say this is because we are all energy. And I always give people the public pool analogy. It's like going to a public pool every single day and never taking a shower. You're an energetic being. You are interacting. We're interacting right now with our fields. So a lot of people don't, and even if you don't want to do this professionally, I feel like this is a skill. It takes a couple minutes a day, just running that, golden light, however you see it, the light of source, the light of God, whatever your belief system is, and just running it through your entire physical body, all of your outer fields, and just releasing anything that's not yours or anything that is yours that's no longer serving you. I feel like that's very underrated because you want to be a clear channel for spirit. But if you're bogged down with emotions, heavy emotions, and you're hanging on, a lot of people, especially myself, this is something I had to learn. I call myself a sponge because I'm so empathetic and I'm a feeler. So I
Mhm.
take on a lot of other people's stuff. And that's something I had to learn in my mediumship development was releasing stuff that's not mine.
Yeah.
Hmm. I think that's
Yeah.
huge. That's something I still need to do. I think really if like even if you're doing mediumship or not to cleanse that like energetic that like all those imprints that you build up throughout the
Mhm.
day, like at least before you go to bed, like try to ground and release all that.
Yeah.
Um, because I feel like you can like, who wants to like sleep with all that like heavy energy that you picked up like throughout all the day and then you're just sitting there at night, can't fall asleep, you're thinking about everything. But like release that cord, I guess is a good way to put it. So like cord cutting exercises I feel like would be huge.
Yeah, so important.
Yeah.
I do that occasionally. I like I like to occasionally ask, uh my guides, I'll say, if there's anyone in my life currently who's not here for, you know,
Snip,
to help
snip.
me along my path, in the highest good,
Hmm.
help me let them go. And it's interesting to see like who kind of just exit stage left. You're like, oh, okay then.
Hmm.
It's a good one
Yep.
and well served too. It's like, keep your I feel like the circle tight and like not let other
Yeah.
Yeah.
energy really come in.
That's
Um,
very important.
mhm,
Hmm.
absolutely. What is something outside of mediumship that actually made you a better medium? And I'm gonna kind of jump back to what Deanna said earlier about building your reference bank. Um, there's just so much. Like if you can like even watch a documentary about a historical event, I guarantee it, sometime within one of your readings, you will get a
Hmm.
reference to that historical event and that person was actually there. Like learning about 9/11, learning about World War
Yeah.
II, for example, but also like traveling, not that you have to like go to Europe or like, travel the world or anything, but like even just like places nearby you and like actually like experience, really get immersed in the experience, like read about the things that are around you. If you have a museum nearby you, like read about the stuff there because like spirit is always using references that you've experienced to get their messages across. And I think that
Yeah.
that's really important is to consistently like just live your life and experience things. I think that's the most important thing to do. Not just focus on spirituality, everything. Like live your life because that's going to really be a lot of references that you're going to be building for your mediumship.
So important. So
Yeah.
Huge. That's huge.
Mhm.
so for me, it's a few things, right? Because like being a mom teaches us to, for those that are moms out there and on this journey, um, I used to ask like, how come my mediumship came at the same time as motherhood? I'm like, there's a lot going on here, but raising my son has really, well, one, it's brought inner child healing to me. Okay.
Mhm.
He taught me how to be like play and have fun.
Mhm.
He's taught me so much patience. Aries sun. We don't do slow, okay? Um, taught me lots of patience, regulating my own emotions and his emotions. I'm a little Scorpio moon. Um, being patient with the emotional responses, but I'll say like layered on top of that, being a mom and, guiding him through those things. Nervous system work, like regulating myself. I've been doing a lot of like EFT tapping. The more regulated I am, um,
Yep.
I feel has helped me in my mediumship because, right, mediumship is receiving information through, right, our
Yep.
energy field. And if our energy is scattered and all over the place, it's really hard to receive those signals. So the more grounded and calm I am and regulated I am, the better I can receive the information, but also all of the healing work that we do as mediums allows us to receive that information through, I'll say, like an unfiltered lens. Like we're not using biases and preconceived, like limiting beliefs and things like that, and ego things as we are um, being a receptor, a channel for those messages. So it's a
Mhm.
lot of layered stuff there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
A lot of layered stuff.
I agree. That's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with both of you. I mean, I think it's very important to come back to that human aspect because, we get so busy trying to build like this spiritual and think that that's like, you
Huh?
know, all of it. But the human is where we're learning these lessons to progress in our story. So I think just taking care of ourselves on that human level, doing more, having more fun, taking care of our bodies, just, you know, play. Play is big.
Play is
I'm going fishing after this, so
oh so
Ooh.
exciting.
Fun.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna go play.
Go play.
I love
That's been
that.
something I've been drawn to. I want to go fishing too. I have a bunch of
Yeah.
fishing rods from my grandpa downstairs. I just
Oh,
haven't gone out
fun.
yet. I actually don't even know the first thing about fishing. So I get a fish and be like, now what? Let me YouTube it quick.
Your
Yeah.
grandfather's in
YouTube.
spirit.
Yep. Mhm.
Okay, so ask him, say, Grandpa, come with me. Show
Oh,
me how to do these things. Be with me. Show me. Teach me.
I should. I'll go fishing with my grandpa in spirit.
Yes.
That'll be cute.
He'll be
I love
there. You'll feel
Yep.
those nudges like, oh, I think I'm supposed to do that. Okay.
Hmm.
Thanks, Grandpa.
it. He definitely
Yep.
will.
But yeah, I was feeling like I'm like, I need to go fishing today. Then
Oh,
I hopped on Facebook and a memory popped up from us fishing
oh,
last year. And I'm like,
Aw.
I
I
love
love
that.
that.
So beautiful.
I feel like that fits in perfectly because there's something so tranquil and peaceful about fishing because it requires so much patience. Do you know what I mean? It's not a rushed activity. It's you're on the water, you're calm for the most part, probably. Um, unless you're anxious at all, like, but I feel like there's this tranquility about it. And I feel like it's very peaceful and very relaxing. So I feel like that fits in perfectly. But my answer would be compassion for self, because I feel like when you can have compassion for self, you can have compassion for others. I feel like everything starts within, right? So it's like if you can, really look at yourself and not beat yourself up, and like you girls have been saying, like, embody this human experience, I feel like that actually accelerates the spiritual experience, right? Because we obviously came here for a purpose to have a physical experience. And I feel like, again, I feel like this has been a big message here of integrating and balancing those two
Yeah.
aspects, right? To see the bigger picture. So I feel like compassion for self is, for me, that's my answer.
Hmm. I agree. What is something that you still struggle with today in your mediumship? And
Mm.
for me, I would say it's definitely still like fully surrendering and trusting. As I said, it's not necessarily that I don't trust spirit. It's me trusting myself to just say what I'm receiving and not overinterpret it or try to put my own meaning on it because again, like I said before, it's not my place to put my meaning on the evidence that's meant for that person. And I think that that's something that like yes, I'm still working on that for sure. I catch myself a lot in my readings now where I'm like, okay, like I get something in my head, like I see an image and I sit there and I don't say anything about it. I'm waiting for more information. And it's like something that I learned from like previous mentorships and stuff. They're like, just say it. Just say it. Explain what you're receiving. And I'm like, oh, so it's like I'm still definitely working on that one. It's just saying what it is and like not worrying about if it makes sense or not from the get-go. Just say it.
Yeah,
Because half the time you'll surprise yourself of like how that person actually resonates with it. Hmm.
absolutely. Yeah, that's so important, right? Just say it. Just say the
Yeah,
thing. I always tell myself, just take the risk. What's the worst thing? They say no, right?
exactly.
Mhm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
for me, something I still struggle with is sometimes it like falls in the realm of comparison, but it's mostly comparison with myself. Sometimes I forget how far I've truly come.
Mm-hmm.
In between all of the learning and developing I've done, I really should be sitting back more often and thinking like, oh, you know what? I really have come a long way. And for me, one of my struggles is like I don't always know how much I know until somebody points it out to me. So, um, yeah, that's part of that integration I was talking about earlier. Just kind of like, even if I look back at the beginning of my journey, I think that was 2023. It's been some years, I haven't and years of development, like hours, months, years.
Mm-hmm.
If I look back at that version of me, I'm like, oh my God, girl, we made it this far. We have grown.
Yeah.
So just taking that time to really like appreciate, how far we've actually come and stop
Absolutely.
beating ourselves up every step of the way.
Yeah, definitely releasing that perfectionism and releasing that high standard we put on
Yeah.
ourselves to do
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
excellent. Yeah, and just dropping that for sure.
Yeah. I love both of those answers. That was definitely relatable.
We all feel it.
We do.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Um, Definitely just keep going into that surrender. Um, Definitely can see the progress I've made over the years,
Yeah.
Definitely say the weird thing you get.
Hmm.
Because, like Deanna said, like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? You get no. Like, so
Yep.
what? Maybe it's just misinterpreted. Like,
Yep.
it's not a big deal. It's not the end of
Exactly.
the world. You're not gonna die.
But did you die?
I love that meme.
I know it's the best. And yeah, just patting yourself on the back because you know, sometimes it's hard to reflect on that. You're like, I really did come that far and so much growth. And, it's a beautiful thing to learn and grow.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
agree. Hmm.
Everyone in this Zoom room has come so far. And I said that before, right? Like you go back and you watch our first episode where we are all together and you see the progress, right? And I've
Yeah.
seen it with you girls because we're all friends and we all talk, right? So it's you can see and feel the progress that we've all made. I think for me, and it's one of those things, expectations. I always want to be perfect. It's, part of, and I'm working through that because it's, people pleasing, perfectionism. I know it's not conducive. Self-confidence too. Sometimes I struggle in readings. It's funny because I think Isabel said she struggles with relationship, where that's one of my stronger points, where I struggle with age sometimes because I feel like spirit sometimes will come through and they'll show you themselves at a different point in life. So I can sometimes get the age wrong. But two, also struggling with how they look sometimes. Because I feel a
Hmm.
lot of times I don't really see, sometimes I do if it's really important. I feel like a piece of an evidence for that sitter. But a lot of times I struggle with pulling through exactly how they looked. So not beating myself up over those things, not having these crazy expectations. I feel too, every reading's different. I feel sometimes I did a reading the other day that was heavily evidence based, and there was not so much message, but then there's other readings where it's more about the message. So I feel like just trusting the natural flow of those readings, release the expectation, release the outcome, and just flow and go with it.
Hmm. Absolutely. Just kind of like touching base on what you said with another like little quick tip is about getting the appearance wrong.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
learned that not to really focus on the appearance unless it's
Mhm.
specific, like a military
Yeah.
uniform,
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that. But because I've done that too, where I explained someone at like an earlier stage in life, and like the person that I was reading for, they didn't know them during that
Yeah.
point. So
Yeah.
it's like, trying to do that because all the other information fit. It was just the appearance was off. But like, yeah, so definitely, I guess not focusing too much on appearance unless it's like military uniform or there's something very significant, like a mole or a tattoo or something like that. But yeah, but that was a good point, definitely. If every listener left today's episode remembering just one thing about mediumship, what would you want that one thing to be? And for me, I would say it's to have fun with it. It's to not be so serious about it because I feel like if you are very ser not that you, I mean, like I'm serious about my mediumship, but I still have fun with it. But like if you are way too hard on yourself, like that's just gonna backfire. Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
100%. You're gonna like knock your confidence if there's anything that goes wrong, which there will be something that
Yeah.
goes, well, not every reading, but there's
Part
gonna
of
be
it.
something. And that will completely knock you off if you
Mhm.
are that much of, I guess, of a perfectionist and like holding a high standard. So I think that's really good is to just have fun and like be like, okay, like if you get a no or you like completely fumble reading, it's like, it's okay. Like if you feel, a little bit of embarrassment or a little bit of shame, like that's all right. But like at the end of the day, like just take it with a grain of salt. Know that
Mhm.
that does not define your mediumship. And there's a thousand things that could have happened of like, why things like may have like went that way. And it's not to think about that. It's to say like kind of laugh it off and think like, oh, well, I remember that. And I completely like, that was I don't want to say a bad reading, but like,
Yeah.
things didn't go the way that they should. And then just kind of laugh at it. Because I do that with the one when I said I went on TikTok and I did like my first like reading with tarot cards and I
Mm.
picked a complicated spread. And as soon as I saw people getting on there, it's like I had like 100 people like on the live, like
Mm.
in a minute, and I freaked out and I forgot all my tarot knowledge and I had this awkward moment. I was like, sorry, it sucked, bye, and just clicked off. And and I remember I was like really mortified after that, but like now I laugh at it, thinking of like, it's just like one of those memories. But I think that's definitely good. It's just to kind of like laugh at those like little moments and stuff
Yep,
where things might have fumbled and not be too hard on yourself is something
exactly.
Yeah.
that a lot of people need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to laugh at ourselves too, right? Because
Yeah.
yes, we want to take this seriously, but at the same time, we're human and we're here to be human. I would say, I hope anyone listening to this episode just remember to take your time. Don't rush your development because part of development is the life experience you're having at the same time as you're
Mhm.
developing. So, you wouldn't want to rush through your life, right? Like that movie Click, where you're
Yeah.
fast forwarding through every
Oh yeah.
inconvenient moment. So don't do that with your mediumship either. You know, take your time, integrate your lessons, and really just enjoy the journey because it is a journey.
Hmm.
Excellent point.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm. It's
Um,
worth it.
I
Yeah.
think I would like to remind people that spirit doesn't need us or want us to be perfect.
Mm.
We
Bingo.
are here in these human bodies to learn and to grow and just experience life. And we don't need to be perfect people to channel spirit, and spirit is working through us to help us learn and just, take it easy on yourself and have fun with it. We need to have fun with it.
Hmm. Absolutely.
I feel like you girls already answered all of what I would say here. One thing, again, it's all about, experiencing the journey, right? Not controlling the outcome too
Mm,
goes into that,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because it kind of takes away from the excitement. I always tell people it's like, with sports, I love sports analogies. I'm like, if you already know how the game's going to end and you know what the
Yeah.
final score is going to be, it's not any fun, right? Like there's a reason why all these things come up and happen the way that they do. And it's like let the journey unfold for you. Let spirit show you how magical all of this can be and be okay with not controlling every aspect of it and allowing it to unfold naturally.
I love that.
I'll leave
And
it there.
also, it's been, right, a lovely journey alongside other mediums like yourselves. You know,
100%.
having other mediums that you can do like this, like
yeah.
learn from, but also share experiences with, makes it so
Mhm.
much more magical.
Yeah.
It
And like
is.
that's the thing. Like I didn't have like people in my community that I could reach out to.
Mm.
All my friends came online and mediumship and development. Like
Mhm.
all of you guys, we don't even
Mhm.
live near each other. And like you're in a different country. Like and it's like, we all still find time to like meet up and chat and like,
Yeah.
still spend time together and stuff. And I think that that's really important for your development too, is like having like a support system. And you'll meet people in like Facebook groups or other like online communities that have the same interests,
Yeah.
and you end up building those relationships. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Agree.
That's a really big one too.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's huge.
I love learning and growing with you gals.
Yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for tuning into this conversation. We hope that this was helpful or provided some guidance to support you as you move forward in your spiritual journey. And if you feel drawn to any of us, feel free to give us a follow. All of our social media profiles are linked in the description below. And I'll see you in the next episode, my friends.